And off and away, and here we go. So I'm going to open today with a cover of Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Why? Because I feel like it. She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She said, I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She told me her name was Billie Jean as she made a scene. Every eye turned with hearts that dreamed to be in the one who will dance on the floor in the round. Well, people always told me, be careful what you do. Don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. And Mama always told me, be careful who you love. Be careful what you do, 'cause the lie becomes the truth. Billie Jean, she's not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. But the kid is not my son. She says I am the one, but the kid is not my son. For 40 days and 40 nights, the law was on her side. But who can stand when she's in demand? Her schemes and plans, 'cause we danced on the floor in the round. So take my strong advice. Just remember to always think twice. She told my baby we danced till 3. Then she looked at me, then showed a photo. My baby cried, his eyes looked like mine. Go on, dance in the floor in the round. Yeah, people always told me, be careful careful what you do. Don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. She came and stood right by me, then the smell of sweet perfume. This happened much too soon, yeah. She called me to her room, but Billie Jean, she's not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one, but the kid is not my son. She says I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Billie Jean, oh Billie Jean, Billie Jean. Sorry I missed you, Drew. Drew did me a big favor about sending me a song that he just wrote recently. I'm gonna get to learning that piece, Drew, if you're still around. So I like the lyrics. I haven't had the chance to actually listening to it. How you guys doing today? Bumble Guppy, Nova Scotia. Pissed off. How you doing, bud? We got some people already picking numbers in the stream, eh? Already picking numbers in the stream. All right, let's get to it. So we got a 3, we got a 10. Okay, nice. Next I want a Weird Al major key polka version. All right, bud. Bumble Guppy. I've always loved that kind of bluesy version of Billie Jean since I heard Chris Cornell do a version of it. And since then, I've always been like kind of enthralled by it. So I felt like I wanted to do it today, so I did it. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you enjoyed that. I always got a little nervous playing new stuff, but so we got a 3, we got a 10, we got a 4. I'm gonna go with the magic number today, the 7. Good old fashioned 7.
Here we go for today's number.
Here's today's
it's
number.
October 28th.
Let's see what kind of magic we've got.
2021. 10 balls. Each ball has a number.
Has a number.
Numbers 1 through 10.
Here we go.
Swirl the numbers.
Is it someone's lucky day? Is David Lynch going to spread his
Pick
magic upon
a number.
you? Let's see. Here we go.
Today's number is
8.
8.
Nope. Just like yesterday, we're not having much luck on the stream, man. We're not having much luck on the stream. I got to get enough people in the stream so that we can't miss, right? Like that's what it comes down to. Let's see if we can fake it. Can we fake it? Not even, right? Like I picked what, 7? No luck there. Yeah, and then like 3 plus 4 is 7. 10 plus 4 minus 3 is 11. Yeah, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd be doing great. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's start locally with here in Toronto. We're sending a message. Executive Committee approves 15% tax cut for Toronto small businesses. Oh, look, another tax cut. Yeah, tax cuts. That's the way to actually run a society. That's the way to do it. Like, by creating a new property tax subclass. Fantastic. So, like, I don't actually mind these sorts of tax cuts for small business kind of organizations and things like this, but you need to balance things out by actually raising taxes on, like, big box stores, for example, or any of this kind of stuff. The city says approximately 25,000 small businesses could benefit from the reduction starting in 2022, representing 60% of all commercial properties in Toronto. Are we going into an election season, guys? Are we going into an election season? Properties must be classified within the commercial or new commercial tax class. Properties must have a current value assessment less than or equal to 7 million. Lot size must be 2,500 square feet or less. So, like, it does look like it's for very specifically small businesses, right? Small businesses will be supported. Now, this isn't like reducing property taxes. Like, I wonder why the city of Toronto is having trouble paying its bills, especially as the Tory government spends money to chase homeless people out of encampments instead of actually giving them the money they need to be supported. Yeah, I already know so many people, some with families and children as young as 3 years old, about to be evicted, nowhere to go in November thanks to the CRB cut. Exactly. And the media is dead silent about it, Matthias. Yeah, things are about to get very bad in this country. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're seeing the failed neoliberal ideology in play, right? A 15% property tax reduction for small businesses, but if you're somebody who's going to get thrown out into the street, or if you're a homeless person, you can get slagged, right? Nobody cares about that. And because we've inverted the responsibility, right? Instead of caring about people, we're caring about businesses. Businesses which are abstract concepts, businesses which don't actually exist in the real world as a real tangible thing. And because we elevate businesses and denigrate people, the system collapses in upon itself. Yep, let's take the CRB money and subsidize small business with it. And not even small business, subsidize just business, right? That's what the liberals are doing. It's very, very obvious that there is going to be a doubling down. It's going to be very, very obvious that there's going to be a doubling down on the failed neoliberal ideology, right? This religious ideology that's not an economic system. That Chrystia Freeland, right? Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is going to double down on neoliberal ideas as she takes money and goes and funds Nazi groups with it. We are in a very, very bleak and significant downturn here in Canada. That we are going to see thousands and thousands of people get thrown out into the streets. Yeah, it's crazy how dead silent all media outlets are on this. No, it's not. Once you realize that they're all owned, right? They're all owned by the billionaire class. And the billionaire class wants to do this. They want to spread suffering, right? Once you understand that intrinsically, that spreading suffering is part of the system, it's part of the whole idea, then it makes total sense that they're dead silent about it. Why would they report on their own malicious activity, right? And every so often you'll see an article sort of leak through the CBC. So, for example, here's a CBC article that I found. Right? Food banks already in crisis mode due to pandemic are bracing for more visits as cost of living rises. But even the CBC has to report on these things a little circuitously, right? They can't directly focus on hey, you're cutting, and of course the CBC can't do that because the CBC is a mouthpiece for the state, right? So they can't speak out against the, and then you have another article here. Labor shortage or shortchanged labor, right? So addressing the fact that this is CBC radio, of course, but addressing the fact that there is a way, but they're framing it the same way they frame everything, right? It's a both sides issue, right? Climate change was a both sides issue, so the science is still out, right? All this kind of stuff. When in reality, no. It's very, very obvious that what is happening is that businesses are not hiring. They don't care to hire, especially businesses that took out loans and things like this. They don't want to hire. And they're claiming that it's a labor shortage in order to maintain public sympathy. That's what's happening. So that when you go to these locations and you can't get service, instead of saying, hey, hire more staff, right? You shitty business that's doing shitty business practices and exploiting workers, right? Instead of saying that, they'll say, oh, well, nobody wants to work anymore, right? And the public is so stupid and gullible that they'll go along with that. Yeah, another demonstration on how monopolized the oligarchs' influence really is. Yeah, they own the system, right? Like I at this stage in the game, I don't know what it's going to take for people to actually start waking up and recognizing that that's the case. That the reason why billionaires are dangerous, the reason why even a benevolent billionaire is dangerous, is because any billionaire will use their billions in order to overwhelm the political system. And it only takes one. It only takes one to overwhelm the political system. And if you think otherwise, you're a complete and total dunder. Like, literally, like, I don't think that's true, Don. I don't know if that's true at all. Like, that's literally who you are if you're walking around thinking anything other than that. Like, and it doesn't even take hundreds of billions of dollars. Like, it takes like $1 billion. If you have $1 billion, you can overwhelm the political system very easily. It's easy to do, right? And we've just watched it happen. Like, literally, we're just watching it occur. And because we're so heavily propagandized, because we'll believe any story we're told, because we're so gullible and we're so easy to lie to, we're so easy to gaslight. Like, we're a very, very stupid people. And because we're so stupid, all you got to do is just not talk about it, right? And then it'll just kind of go away. And then when people start to kind of scratch their head and be like, I wonder why there's so many homeless people all over the sudden, right? You literally can just say, like, oh, people don't want to work. And enough people will be like, yeah, people are lazy and they don't want to work, that they'll just keep voting liberal and keep voting conservative because they're too stupid to do anything else. Like, we really are at that stage as a people where we are so bereft of like intellectual and empathetic credibility inside of our heart that we don't even care really. Like, we don't even care really. Like, that's what it is. Like, we genuinely don't care. If we cared, we'd take to the streets, right? If we cared, we'd be doing something about it. But we're not, because we don't actually care, right? We're extremely well trained. We're trained since basically the moment of our birth to abandon people around us, to stop caring about people, right? To focus on yourself. It's all about you, right? Follow your dreams. Don't worry about like the safety or security of anybody around you. And you're seeing like an absolute abandonment of huge sections of the population. The media doesn't talk about it, and near as I can tell, the populace is just kind of shrugging and being like, "Oh yeah, okay," right? Because we're so gulled. Like, we're so gulled. I found a tweet yesterday linking a corporate disclosure site showing that the main investors of News Corp, Fox News, and Comcast NBC here in the U.S. are the same. Yeah. No, like, when I say that the billionaire class owns the society, I'm dead serious about it. It's not hyperbolic. Like, it's not hyperbolic. And the studies are there, the evidence is there, everything that you want to see is there. The same people own both sides of the conversation, right? And they pretend as though there is a robust dialogue going on. And if you're gullible, you'll believe that, right? If you're gullible, you'll believe that oh yeah, when Fox News speaks and MSN speaks, they're talking to each other, right? They're actually trying to work something out. When no, they're just trying to make sure that the dialogue stays nice and tight, right? This is classic manufacturing consent. Like, this is Noam Chomsky 101, right? Like, you make sure that the conversation only happens within this very narrow bandwidth, and more as the public is getting desperate for answers for what is actually happening, the corporate sector has to turn to conspiracy, right? Because it's all they have left. That the answers are in the works of Marx, right? Are on the side of the communists. Like, if you want to know what's actually going on, you just need to read like the Communist Manifesto once, and not even read it really. Just put it on as like an audiobook while you do your chores at home and stuff. Like, literally read the Communist Manifesto, and you're going to have like a revelation of like, oh yeah, that is what's going on, right? But if you don't, and if you're constantly steered away from it, and in fact, if that text is demonized to you, and you consider communism is a cobra while your society collapses around you, then you can believe. Then all that's left are just conspiracies. All that's left are just these like very odd conspiratorial arrangements, which is where you get like QAnon or like Russiagate or any of this kind of dumb bullshit, right? And what's so funny is that if you actually go and you, like here in Canada, if you actually listen to PPC people, like these guys don't read, right? They don't read. They're not literate, right? But they are reaching conclusions that Karl Marx already reached, because communism is actually very common sense and straightforward, right? And or they'll get like right up to it. They'll get right up to it and then just go like take a bounce, right off the thing, because they don't quite like. I mean, if you're walking around saying that you're a libertarian these days, like you're just admitting that you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like your strategy is everyone will be freer if we just sell ourselves to corporate power more. If we just deregulate capitalism more. Like, it's incoherent. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. All you got to do is say one sentence out loud and the whole libertarian movement collapses, right? Oh, the strategy is to continue failing, right? Just fail harder, right? Do the things that don't work more. Oh, okay, right? And like, once you accept that that's a failed ideology, just like neoliberalism is a completely failed religious ideology, it's not an economic system, then you just start to see and understand that, like, this place is controlled. Like, it's taken over, right? And it's operated very much like a prison is operated, right? You start to think about it that way, and you start to realize what's actually happening. Just the walls are invisible, that's it. Like, it doesn't matter where you go. Doesn't matter who you work for. You're always working for the same guy. Always. 100% of the time. Everything is owned by the same people, right? With, like, the small exceptions of, like, small business and all this. But, like, guess who small businesses are beholden to? Oh, the bank, right? Because to get anything done as a small business, you have to take out loans from the bank. Oh, who owns the banks? So you're starting to see, right? You're starting to see the whole structure is owned by the same people. There's no competition. That doesn't exist. And that's the reason we're falling behind. Because not only is there no competition, so the whole competition capitalism angle doesn't exist. That's a total farce, right? But there's also no plan, right? So literally, like, the only plan that exists is what makes money for me, right? And what we're starting to see, yeah, the game of Monopoly is basically over. That's a really clean way of saying it, Oddity. Like, the game of Monopoly is basically over. And it's going to get more hysterical. Like, it's going to get more obvious. Like, more and more people are going to be abandoned. The people who really sacrificed their lives in the jobs that they were supposed to get, that everyone was told they should get, and I'm talking about your, like, doctor, lawyer, engineer types, right? Their money is going to become valueless, right? Inflation is going to eat it away. They're not going to be able to get houses. They're not going to be able to get the things that they were told made them middle class. And you are going to have a group of people who whose only attribute that contributes at all to the system they have been involving themselves in is obedience, suddenly realizing that their obedience is being completely betrayed. And where do people go and who do people turn to when all they've ever done their whole life is obey, right? All they've ever done is do what they're told. That's how you become a doctor and a lawyer and an engineer. You do what you're told, right? You just follow the line that's given to you. And now that they're betrayed, well, what they're going to do is they're going to turn to someone who talks a good game, who gives them ideas of what the solutions might be, right? While steering them away from the actual solutions. So, like, someone like Charlie Kirk, for example, is perfect in this, right? Like, steer people into giving them power, right? So you'll have grifters and con men show up, right? A rising fascist movement, like the PPC is, right? Full of grifters and con men, and racists and white supremacists, who are going to give people a narrative that they'll grab onto, and because they're not given any alternative, and the actual alternatives, i.e. the communists and the socialists, will be silenced completely, the people who will obey will just obey the fascists. And their obedience will also be betrayed once again as the place collapses into a civil war, as we're seeing in the United States. Like, what is happening in the United States is 100% going to happen here in Canada, because we're doing everything we can to silence leftists, to silence communists and socialists, to pretend as though communists are the same as fascists, to lie and disassemble all of this kind of stuff. And liberals will side with the fascists when their privilege is threatened, of course. Well, and our liberals don't even need to side with fascists when their privilege is threatened, right? They're already funding Nazi groups, right? They're already funding like the shrine to communist violence, or whatever the fuck it's called, right? Victims of Communism Memorial, right? That kind of shit, right? So they're already in bed with far-right fascists. Like, it's already happened, right? It's not happening. There isn't a path for it to go forward. They're already giving money to Nazi groups. They're already training Nazi groups. They're already doing that. And then the conflation of a group like Black Lives Matter with the Proud Boys is just going to be their excuse for assaulting leftist voices, which is just going to empower the PPC, ultimately, right? That a far-right fascist group is going to come into Canadian politics. They're going to start winning seats because they're the ones that are organizing along lines that, hey, something's actually gone wrong, right? Something's actually gone wrong, right? Like, that's the one truth that the PPC is actually telling, right? While the conservatives and the liberals will say things like, average Canadians are hurting, right? They'll say that kind of dumb bullshit. The PPC is saying stuff like, yeah, we're being abandoned. Like, we're being abandoned. Because we are being abandoned. And the far right and the far left agree on that we are being abandoned. And abandonment is the word to use. And the solutions, of course, are desperately different from one another. Because the far right is incoherent and is going to plunge us into a state of total violence. Right? And how do I know that's the truth? Because it's all they've ever done. Because it's all they've ever done. Well, I hope your day is going well, guys. I hope things are going well for you. Let's pop into more news, shall we? Doug Ford, of course, privatizing low-income employment services, as one does, right? When you're a rapacious sociopath like Doug Ford is. So not only are they cutting all of our services, not only are they going to be committing austerity against us, they're going to be privatizing the services as well, right? So the end game for capital here is straight up that everything is owned by the ownership class, the same billionaires. So if you want anything done, and then eventually it's just about denying services, like we're seeing within the we're seeing in the United States with the healthcare system, right? That the goal is to force people who need to use the service to pay as much as they possibly can. And should there actually be a situation where the system has to pay out, they just deny the service, right? Until eventually you just have millions and millions of people who are completely abandoned. Like, they literally won't be able to find housing. Like, very, very serious shit is going to happen here in this country. And the sociopaths like Doug Ford and the wimps like John Tory and the total losers like Justin Trudeau are just going to watch and let it happen because they don't give a fuck at all. Like, they don't care at all. They live in mansions. Like, they don't care at all. Right? Like, so what has to give? What's got to give? Right? So something will give. It's just a matter of time. And a lot less time than you think. Yeah. Here's an article coming out of Jacobin. I'm going to read this one straight out loud because this one matters to Canada. Loblaws makes its profits by paying workers poverty wages, by Mitchell Thompson. This is from the Jacobin. For Canada's third richest family, the Westons, the pandemic has meant windfall profits. Now, workers at Loblaw-owned supermarket chain Real Canada Superstore are threatening a strike for better pay and conditions. 10,000 Real Canadian Superstore workers across Canada's westernmost prairie province, Alberta, appeared poised to strike against pandemic pay cuts by Loblaw Companies Limited. Even after Loblaws reported a banner year in profits and revenue, the company refuses to reinstate their $2 per hour hero pay. This past summer, after over a year of rapid profits, Loblaw decided that its unionized Alberta Superstore workers were due for wage and hour cuts. Superstore's August 2021 offer, posted on the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 401 website, would have cut the hours qualifying for night premium pay and cut guaranteed hours for staff. The union pushed for the company to reinstate the $2 per hour hero pay it cut last summer, but management refuses to budge. On September 24th, 97% of Alberta Superstore workers voted to strike. The company responded by retracting its main demand for hour cuts and offering an immediate wage increase of up to 90 cents per hour instead, plus an increase of as much as 1.5% in the first year of employment. This minor improvement is only about half the rate of the hourly pay it cut last spring. The latest struggle is yet another chapter in the company's ongoing efforts to maximize the flexibility of its operations by busting unions, cutting wages, and gutting job security. The Superstore workers aren't alone. After the hero pay was cut in late June 2020, it wasn't restored for any of the company's 220,000 workers as they faced resurgent waves of COVID-19 infections and deaths. The cutback led to a strike by workers at Loblaw's owned Dominion grocery stores in Newfoundland. The strike lasted 12 weeks, preserving in the face of a heavy police presence and threats of arrest. The workers, unfortunately, only won a 0.35 increase in the first year. In lieu of pay increases, all 220,000 workers received a note from the company's scarf enthusiast CEO, Galen Weston Jr., justifying the cut on the grounds that management was confident our colleagues are operating safely and effectively in a new normal. Lest he seem cold, Weston ended his letter by assuring the low-wage workers, "Your safety and well-being of our colleagues remain our top priority. Be well." To date, 30 of Alberta's 40 Superstore locations have reported COVID-19 outbreaks. Immediately following the wage cut, Bloomberg reported the company's shares rose by 2%. One Desjardins Securities analyst called the cut a slightly positive for the industry, as wages account for the majority of pandemic-related costs. Throughout 2020, according to the company's most recent annual information form, Loblaw's revenues grew to $52.7 billion. Loblaw reported a profit of nearly $400 million and raised its dividend by 3.2%. As of April this year, Galen Weston Jr. increased his own reported wealth as part of Canada's third richest family from $8.8 billion in March 2020 to $13.4 billion. It may seem strange that an enterprise as large and profitable as Loblaw's Company Limited is willing to provoke two strikes involving tens of thousands of workers in order to block a $2 pay increase. However, it is in keeping with management's long-standing strategy of keeping workers' expectations low. The same month the company introduced its $2 pay cut, Weston co-authored a report for the Business Council of Canada entitled, "We've Flattened the Curve, Now What?" The authors of the report complained about the money the federal government had spent supporting workers left unemployed by the effects of COVID-19. These supports, they argued, meant that employees lacked incentives to return. This complaint was not without precedent. Back in 2018, Loblaw rejected a credit union proposal to pay its workers a living wage, described the proposal as the income necessary to support families in specific communities. Notably, the directors opposed the motion because it would oversimplify the ways in which Loblaw sets compensation and restrict its competitive flexibility. This flexibility is dependent on a workforce desperate for poverty wages. That the paltry offerings of federal COVID-19 supports worked to interfere with the company's modus operandi is a sad testimony to its business strategy of exploiting destitution and need. The scale of Loblaw's enterprise is vast. Through its long history, it has grown its profits enormously by keeping wages low. Soon after its wartime expansion, the company was, Gerald Kaplan notes, a prominent donor to the red-baiting Public Information Association. The association waged a campaign to block both the Congress of Industrial Organizations and the growing Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, and to prop up George Drew's Tories. Loblaw wasn't able to stop the rise of CIO organizing, but by the mid-1950s, the company, by then the largest chain in Canada and headed by the Barnum of supermarkets, had settled with a number of CIO union locals. Late 90s president and McKinsey & Co. alum Richard Curry explained company strategy through these decades as a huge capital investment program, pumped into large, high-volume stores where union costs were not quite so much a detriment of profitability. In his history of UFCW Local 401, Defying Expectations, Jason Forrester writes about the ways that Loblaw's co-opted organized labor in order to expand the scale of its operations. The company did this in part through a program of closures and consolidations. However, Loblaw sometimes voluntarily recognized unions in order to buy peace and hobble radical labor organizing. This strategy could last only so long as demand was high. By the early 1990s, that consumer demand tapered off. We had a problem, wrote Curry for the Ivy Business Journal. Weak management had allowed the store asset base to erode and had provided fertile opportunities for labor unions. In the 90s, sales were slipping and revenue was uneven. In a period of slow growth, Curry argued, profit improvements in the 90s are likely to come primarily from bottom-line cost reductions and lower break-even points rather than from top-line sales and margin expansion strategies, much more common in the 70s and 80s. For workers, that meant cutbacks, or in Curry's words, stretching variable costs. The company demanded major cuts to wages and job security, provoking 4 high-profile strikes across Ontario and Quebec. Undeterred, the company reported that the negotiations were a success, and its return on investment rose far about the TSX average. When Curry resigned as CEO, he collected a $10 million payout and left behind a management team dedicated to his vision. Loblaw will continue to reduce operating and labor costs in order to maintain earnings in light of lower prices and increased competition. Throughout this period, the company also proved an eager supporter of right-wing provincial attacks on unions, workers, and the poor. Galen Weston, the CEO of Loblaw's parent company, donated over $34,000 to Mike Harris's ultra-right-wing Ontario Tory campaign. Harris also named Galen's wife, Hilary Weston, Ontario's lieutenant governor. In 2006, Galen Weston Jr. took over as CEO in advance of, as Maclean's noted, an imminent strike by unionized workers in Ontario. A last-minute agreement averted this strike, which was prompted by management's attempt to reclassify stores in an attempt to cut wages and benefits. In 2010, 1,700 workers in Sarnia, Chatham, and Windsor were moving to strike against the company cuts of up to 25% to wages and benefits. At the time, Loblaw's public relations vice president justified the cuts by saying it would help the company obtain operational flexibility. Ultimately, the deal that averted that strike also froze the wages of part-time employees. In each successive annual report since then, the company has spelled out for its shareholders that it is willing to accept the short-term costs of labor disruption in order to achieve competitive labor costs for the longer term. This admission casts all Loblaw labor disputes in a different light. Loblaw expects strikes and factors arm wrestling at the bargaining table into their long-term business strategies. In 2013, the company provoked strikes at its Real Canadian Superstores in Alberta. As the Alberta Federation of Labor notes, the company's demands for hours reductions and a 40% pay cut for new hires spurred a 97% vote in support of industrial action and a subsequent 3-day province-wide strike. In the end, the 8,500 Alberta workers won some small wage increases for full and part-time staff and improvements in health and benefit coverage. In 2014, the company purchased Shoppers Drug Mart for $12.4 billion. In the aftermath of the sale, the Globe and Mail reported, management campaigned against an effort to automatically certify Shoppers outlets in Manitoba with its existing unionized grocery stores. Loblaws operates an internal monitor system for potential union drives at its non-union stores. It is part of the company's comprehensive anti-labor grand design. What better way to lower the cost of labor than to never allow it to rise in the first place? Loblaws has recently explored the possibility of an automated fulfillment order system. It has been clear that it doesn't intend to create unionized jobs in the process. During an earnings call, the company's president told One Analysis that from a union perspective, we wouldn't see that. In 2017, Weston Jr., playing to type on a conference call, asserted that Ontario's increased minimum wage was an aggressive financial headwind. Loblaw claims to have a good relationship with the unions representing its workers, but for decades, the companies have worked to undermine the organized labor in the name of flexibility. Any gains workers win in pay, benefits, or improved job security today will become the basis for bargaining power they'll have tomorrow. This will, in turn, empower them to stand up to management's demands for cuts. Loblaw is able to guarantee its profits by continually suppressing the demands of its workers. This is the source of the Weston family's wealth in Alberta and everywhere else in Canada. Workers employed by the Loblaw empire in other parts of the country should take note of this latest strike effort. If workers can win in Alberta, they win across the rest of Canada too. Worth pointing out, right? The pathetic earnings that have been given to these workers have completely been obliterated by inflation. Inflation is 5%, higher perhaps. If you are getting a wage increase of anything less than 5% annually, you are losing money. Period. Articles like this show you very clearly that we are ruled by sociopaths. At least sociopaths. These people have billions of dollars at their behest, and their goal is to spread suffering into the populace. It's very, very obvious. And in big meta ways, the antagonistic nature of our system, where workers are forced to fight against owners constantly, and owners are constantly scheming against workers, collapses the system. The system cannot perpetuate itself as it fights against itself. And it's going to become more and more obvious as time moves forward that this society and the structure of capital does not function. It doesn't work. The only thing it does is spread suffering into the populace enrich a small group of people, right? While they wedge themselves into necessary systems to make complex societies work, and then ultimately collapse those systems, which is their goal. It is their goal to collapse these systems. They don't care about anyone. They care about extracting wealth from the society through labor and through literal money, offshoring it, and as the system collapses, they will simply retreat into their palaces. They don't care about you at all, even a little. The only reason they even think about you is so that they can manipulate you. That's it. And it's going to get very obvious very soon. And in the wake of that obviousness, parties like the People's Party of Canada are going to spike in popularity. Hindenburg appointed Hitler, but also got 8 conservatives to outvote his 3 Nazis in Reichstag. Then the Reichstag fire happened, and those conservatives gave Hitler dictatorial powers with the Enabling Act. We're not quite there yet. Not quite. What happens here is going to be very dark, very violent. There's going to be a lot of violence that falls out because of all of this. As the system collapses, as the game of Monopoly, as the board gets folded up, as the pieces get shuffled off the board, it's going to be extremely violent. At this stage, it's almost impossible to avoid, given the people who are in the positions that they're in. Someone like Justin Trudeau doesn't care. Chrystia Freeland is literally funding Nazi organizations. Like, what do you need? Like, what do you need to see to understand that the system is in a free fall collapse? And all we can do at this stage in the game is organize and protest. That's all we have. And doing anything else is childishness. Just complete and total childishness. Hey DM, how you doing? Pope Francis is a fierce advocate of a basic income. He's planning a trip to Canada soon. Do you think Pontiff will convince Trudeau to implement this? No. I think Pope Francis is a good CEO of an evil corporation, right? That's all the Catholic Church is. It's another demonic organization. It's another evil organization, right? That is deeply entrenched in the sex pedophile rings, like that Jeffrey Epstein is tied into, right? Like, we remember those scandals coming out in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, Pope Francis isn't stopping any of that. He's not suddenly preventing any of it. He's just the happy face they've put on the death cult, right? He only talks about a basic income so that they can be on the right side of history. That's it. Like, so that if the people do rise up and if they do start to go after power structures, they might leave the Catholic Church alone. Like, that's it. That's all he's doing. He's not interested in talking to Trudeau and convincing them to do a basic income or any of that shit. Like, that's not real. That's all just propaganda. That's all just frontmanship. It's just PR, right? It's more WWE shit, right? None of these organizations are your friends. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what you need to see at this point. Like, literally, the Catholic Church is having sex with children. Like, institutionally. Like, I don't know what you need to see to put together that these guys do not give a fuck about anybody. They don't give a fuck about anybody. They don't care at all. And as these systems collapse and as they make money off the collapses, right? Because they're planning on making money off the collapses. What do you think the Great Reset is? Like, they are positioning themselves to maximize the profits from your suffering. That's what they're doing. And as they do that, they're all just going to retreat into Richistan, right? They're all just going to retreat into their gated communities, surrounded by police, right? They're just going to retreat to their private islands, right? They're just going to retreat to places where you can't get because you don't have a private jet, and they're going to flip you off and say, go fucking die. That's what's going to happen. It's already happening. This article that I just read out loud might as well have said it, right? Weston Jr. is literally just saying, like, yeah, we'll fuck over the workers as hard as fucking possible, right? In the name of flexibility, right? The flexibility to be able to enslave a populace. And the Catholic Church is not different. Like, it's not different. It's the same thing. They're just smart enough to know, oh, we got to put a guy on the face of this that actually, if you actually read this book that we hold, it actually says care about the poor? That doesn't seem right. So they're at least understanding that they've got to say the things out of their mouths that their book says, but they don't believe it. They don't give a shit about any of that. They care about money and power for themselves, full stop, period. Full stop, period. And maybe this Pope is like, yeah, let's care about the poor, but that doesn't matter. The organization he's a part of doesn't give a fuck at all. And when he's gone, they'll just turn right back. They'll completely pivot right back to the sociopathic death cult that they are. That they are. Stop fooling yourself. The problem is that there's a limit to desperation and the need when the workforce either revolts or expires. I mean, if you burn out your workforce, they can't work. Like, it's even chattel slavers understood this, right? That's how psychopathic we've become. Like, that's how outrageous we are. That, like, we literally treat our workforce with less respect than the chattel slavers did. Like, yeah, you're going to find those examples of people who, like, did acts of violence and whipped people and all that kind of stuff, right? Absolutely, in the chattel slavers. But they also understood that, like, yeah, these guys need to rest, right? They outright explicitly stated that. Go read Cotton is King. They outright explicitly state that the reason why a wage slave system is worse than a chattel slave system, this was their argument, was because when there was no work, you still took care of the slaves, right? In a wage slave system, you just fucking abandon them. You tell them to get fucked. And if there's no work, then they starve. Like, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And now with the cut of the CRB, they're starting to implement that strategy. They're just abandoning people. Like, that is what is happening. And more as the wealth continues to concentrate and continues to concentrate and continues to concentrate, the economy won't be able to sustain itself because no one will have any money to spend in it. No one will be able to actually participate in the economy, and it will collapse, right? And the owners of the society are well aware of it. They understand that that's the case. It seems like the longer any institution exists, the more it's run by evil psychopaths, like moths to a flame. Is there any system that can prevent that? I mean, what is shocking is that I do think that, like, an actual democracy can. Because if you're constantly electing people who are theoretically working in your interests, but we have sold our democracy. Like, our democracy is just illusionary now, right? It exists just as a way to diffuse power. That's all it exists for. That's its purpose. And and so a democracy that exists in a society that doesn't allow billionaires to exist, that seems to me to be the only system that could prevent it. Because if you don't allow billionaires to exist, then they can't bribe the political system, right? That they have no way of doing that because they don't have the power in the first place. So to me, it's about power diffusion, right? It's about taking this class of psychopaths and literally eliminating the possibility of their existence, that they cannot exist, period. And when they complain, like, oh, you're just punishing successful, like, you're punishing success. Like, yes, we would like to punish successful psychopaths. That's exactly what we're doing. We are punishing successful psychopaths. It's completely fine to do, right? Like when Kevin O'Leary stands up and starts whinging about like, oh, they're just punishing success. Yes, we are punishing successful psychopaths and con men and grifters. Yes, that is what we are doing. Absolutely. And like the full scale demonization of the wealthy class you can't go too far. There's no such thing as going too far. These people are the evilest people who have existed on the planet, period. There has never been an eviler group of people than these, because no other group has attempted to destroy human life. No other group has attempted to do that. You can't go far enough. It's not possible. These people are psychopaths. They are sociopaths. They are attempting to destroy human life, and defending them is disgusting. You're worse than a fucking Nazi if you're defending these people. Like, you're disgraceful. It's gross. It's totally fucking gross. Like, I spit at these people. Ugh, just disgusted by it. Like, and food banks already in crisis mode due to the pandemic are bracing for more visits. Of course they are. The populace is being abandoned. Yeah, but Elon Musk is cool, right? Yeah, right. What a fucking idiot that guy is. Like, anybody who stands in front of me and says that Elon Musk is intelligent, like, literally just go watch his interview with Joe Rogan and, like, don't, like, jerk off while you're watching it. Like, don't, like, jerk off to, like, oh, Elon, yeah! Just, like, sit down and actually listen to him. He's a moron. Like, a moron. He's a very stupid person. Below average intelligence. He is not smart at all. All he does is take his extravagant wealth that was given to him by his daddy from the slave mines that he had in South Africa, right? And he buys other people's shit. That's it. That's what Elon Musk does. You don't need to be a fucking genius to figure that out. There's a real great episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, where there are these guys that are in space and they're very dumb, right? They're on a ship and they're like, oh, we like things that make us go, right? That's how they talk. They're like, oh yeah, we like things that make us go. Yeah, we like things. Yeah, right? And then like people come over to their ship and then they betray them and steal their technology and try to kidnap them. And it's like, yeah, you don't need to be very smart to figure out this strategy, right? It's a very like kindergarten level strategy. And that's what Elon Musk does. That's his whole thing. Like, so he's not smart, and you listen to him, like, and seriously, just listen to him. He sounds like a fucking moron, because he fucking is. Elon Muskrat just made $33 billion for himself this week alone. Yeah, not making this up, of course. Of course, because eventually you get to a point where you have so much money that it's impossible not to make money. Yeah, the coronavirus pandemic is dumb, Elon Musk. Remember when he said that all cases would be over by April, right? Like, he's a very stupid person. Like, I'm dead serious about this. Below average intelligence. Like, literally, like, if the middle is where we're, like, if this is the middle, right? He's like down here. He's a very stupid person. Like, just listen to him talk, for God's sakes. Like, he's like, and I don't mean like read from a cue card, because like, of course he's got people writing for him. Like, he steals everything. Of course he's stealing words as well, right? Like, just listen to him talk off the cuff. Like, look at his Twitter feed, for Christ's sake. His Twitter feed is unbelievable. Like, his Twitter feed is just full of the stupidest shit you will ever see a person say. Like, and when he outright admitted, straight out said, like, we'll coup who we want. Like, so not only is he stupid, he's also petulant, right? Like, literally, he's fine with fomenting a coup. And this was in regards to Bolivia and its lithium mines. Like, dude, don't say that shit. It's a very stupid thing to do. You think Bolivia is going to be, like, chomping at the bit to work with you now? Right? But he doesn't care, because he's too stupid to care. YouTube censored my comment talking about the party in question's dark personality and continuing effort to destroy the planet. Yeah. Like, the fact that they're funding, like, These billionaires could literally end the climate change catastrophe. If they actually cared, they could definitely do it. It wouldn't actually be that difficult for them, right? Like, but they're not interested. They don't care. They don't even care about their own children. Like, they don't care. And we're supposed to what? Like, vote our way out of it? Like, it's a joke. It's a total fucking joke. Yeah, the findings are contained in the new released Hunger Count 2021 report from Food Banks Canada, which surveyed almost all of Canada's 4,750 plus food banks and community organizations. We are seeing high food prices, we're seeing high housing prices, we're seeing an anticipated pullback of government, and we're seeing high unemployment continuing throughout the COVID pandemic. And this is David Armour, CEO of Food Banks Canada. With all of these factors, we're seeing a really high increase in demand, and food banks are bracing for a significant increase in the months to come. Yeah. Like, what do you think? And what's embarrassing about this is that the food banks of Canada have already stated that a basic income is their favored way of doing this. That the food banks of the opinion of the food banks of Canada is that there should not be food banks. That they should get rid of these food banks and be replaced by a basic income. That it would be cheaper and more effective. But we're not doing that. Why? Because we're ruled by psychopaths. Like, they want us to suffer. I don't know what it's going to take anymore. Yep, this is the largest, most unprecedented increase in food bank usage that we've seen both in Toronto and across the country. There are a lot of new faces to the Toronto food banks, and it just speaks to the lack of resiliency that there is in the community, the lack of affordable housing, and the lack of decent employment. Food Banks Canada says government programs and provided income and housing supports to individuals who lost their job or had their hours reduced were stuck in the pandemic, were helpful in flattening the curve of food bank visits and likely prevented even more people. But most of those programs have now been eliminated and are in the process of being wound down or have been modified to provide more targeted support. Improve social safety net, CEO says. Armour, the CEO of Food Banks Canada, said governments should take this opportunity to improve existing social policies that target the root causes of food insecurity, mainly low incomes, unemployment, housing costs, and poverty. Our social safety net is broken, he said, and as we come out of the pandemic, as we shift our funding and shift our government attention, we really need to build and modernize a better safety net. The Liberals are not going to do any of this. Not even one thing. They don't give a fuck. They don't care at all. Like, and for real, and I've said this before, I will definitely say it again. If you vote Liberal, I will spit on you. Straight out. If I find out that you vote Liberal, I'll spit on you, and I'll be happy with it. And if it means that we start a fight, great. I'm happy to fight a Nazi, dude. I'm happy to fight somebody who's abandoning the populace. I'm happy to fight people who are assholes. You deserve to get you deserve it. You deserve this shit. You fucking worthless pieces of garbage. You should get spit on. High housing prices, high food prices, high unemployment, and elimination of government service. I wonder what will happen. And it's what they want. Right? They want the populace to fall into desperation. They want the populace to fight amongst themselves. They don't care. They're psychopaths. They're enjoying the show. Right? They're enjoying the show. Not only are food banks are emptied out, even tent cities to spur out in every park, in every neighborhood, there won't be enough cops to tear these homeless communities apart. Oh, there's always enough cops. They always have money for that. There's always enough money for cops. Shelters should only be for emergencies, fires, blackout, fleeing domestic violence. Now they're basically permanent housing that kicks you out in the morning. Yeah, it's a travesty. Anyone here who voted Liberal or Conservative needs to leave this chat now. No, yeah, let them stick around. That's fine. Let them stick around. Let them revel in their embarrassment. Let them revel in how degenerate they are. Like, liberals are degenerates. Like, there's nothing, there's no way that you can apologize for it anymore, right? Like, we knew it was going to happen. We were telling them it was going to happen. It is a testament to, like, the reality of the situation. The Canadians didn't just gullibly give them their majority that they were obviously asking for so that they could just do this without any negotiation whatsoever. Not that the NDP are fighting very hard, right? Not that the NDP are very interested. Now, it is possible that there are people within the Liberal Party who are actually interested in doing something, right? It's possible. So, impatience growing as Liberal MPs wait for first post-election caucus meeting. Yeah, MPs say there's a level of frustration in the caucus. Yes, of course there's a level of frustration in the caucus. I imagine that there are actually some Liberal MPs who are there to try to attempt to do some good for the Canadian populace. That's not going to work, obviously. Like, it's not going to actually happen. Quebec MP Alexandra Mendez says she finds the wait puzzling, while Ontario MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith said there's no possible reason for the delay. Of course there's a reason for the delay, Nathaniel. You're just too entrenched in the death cult to realize what's going on, right? That they're obviously maximizing the damage. They're obviously maximizing the abandonment. Getting these programs to end as quickly as possible so that they don't even need to table legislation, right? So that they can just move forward and say, that's done, goodbye. And if someone like Alexandra or Nathaniel stand up and say, like, hey, are we going to do anything about this? They'll be told roundly no, and they'll move on. That's exactly what's going to happen. And any of these liberals that are within the Liberal Party that think that this Liberal Party is interested in governing or interested in actually giving a shit about any of this are going to have a rude awakening, right? Like, you've only been in the party for, 8-10 years, right? You're just figuring out now that this is a party that's designed to abandon people. They don't give a fuck. If they gave a fuck, they'd be coming together and they'd actually be meeting. If they gave a fuck, they'd actually be doing something about this. But they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck at all. Just like the NDP, just like the Conservatives, they don't give a fuck at all. The Progressive Caucus, because there is such a thing as a Progressive Caucus, in the U.S. House of Representatives, kicked Nancy Pelosi out of their meeting after 10 minutes. She actually said, I was going to leave anyway, makes no difference, but it was funny, yeah. Like, I mean, there's it's just theater. It's just theater. That kind of thing reinforces the idea that there is such a thing as a progressive caucus that is actually interested in changing the system from the inside. And Nancy Pelosi plays her part perfectly. She gets kicked out of the meeting and has like a lovely snarky little thing. So all parties actually get exactly what they want. That the people who are like, yeah, Pelosi, queen, right? I was going to leave anyway, right? Put on a t-shirt. So she secures her base, because remember, U.S. politics is exclusively vanity projects. There is no political system in the United States. It's just vanity projects. That's all it is. So Pelosi secures her base, gets to go and be like, yeah, whatever. They didn't want to see me. Teenagers. Haha. Oh, those kids. Right? That's exactly... And her base will just be like, yeah, those kids. Yeah. Right? And then the progressives also get to say, and then we kicked her out. And the fucking people supporting the Progressive Caucus, as if that's a thing, get to be like, yeah, we're fighting back. Right? And then all of those parties shake hands and say, good show. We did it. And then they get paid by the same people. It's just theater. It's just theater. Like, that's not serious. That's not politics, right? Like it's not a real thing that happened. It's just craftsmanship. I agree with you, John. It's the sheer absurdity of the players with their donors in the wings pretending they represent the people that is funny. I mean, it's funny in that kind of like if you don't laugh you'll cry sort of way, right? Like, my question is to the Canadian and American people, like, how long until we realize that this is all just theater? How long until we realize that we're being played for suckers, right? Because we are being played for suckers. And how long until we recognize that the solution is to surround the halls of power? Not walk by the halls of power with signs. Surround the halls of power. Make people walk through mobs of people throwing shit at them. Yeah, if I don't laugh, I'll cry. That's my cope, brother. I mean, I think about that all the time, right? If you don't laugh, you'll cry. I choose cry. I choose cry. So that's why all of my music makes people cry, because I choose it. Funny thing about Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco, most are homeless and have no clue who she is. Yeah. Well, because millions of people have already reached the conclusion, like they're not articulating it the way that I articulate it, but they understand it doesn't matter. Like they understand that it doesn't matter who they vote for. It doesn't matter who's on the ballot. None of it matters, right? Who gives a shit, right? And you're seeing that bear out completely with this like this big $1 trillion bill that the Democrats are going to pass. Like it's been gutted down to such a level that it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, and all the money that they're going to give out to is going to get gobbled up by developers. That's exactly what's going to happen. The developers are going to gobble it up. They'll put up some kind of structure, right? Like, oh, this, we got a couple of $1 million to repair a bridge. And so they'll send somebody out and, like, repair the bridge, right? It'll fall over in 5 years. Like, that's what's going to happen. It's a fucking joke. It's a total fucking joke. They wouldn't have made the wrong decision to cancel that benefit if they had listened to caucus, right? So this guy here, like, it's grow up time, Nathaniel, right? It's like that. It's like that meme that we all say. Are we the baddies? Are we the baddies? Yep, you're the baddies. Your party does not give a fuck about anyone. Your party does not care at all. Your party does not give a shit at all. It's grow up time, buddy. It's grow up time. It's time to grow the fuck up. You know what, man? This is what I want to clip. I want to clip this because I think this is hilarious. Hey, Nathaniel. Your party doesn't give a shit about poor people at all. Your party doesn't care about the working people. Your party doesn't give a fuck at all. It's cute that you're walking around saying things like, they wouldn't have made the wrong decision to cancel that benefit had they listened to caucus. They don't listen to caucus. They listen to their owners. Do you not understand that? Do you not get that that's the case? It's grow up time, buddy. It's grow up time. It's time to grow up, realize that you're part of the problem. You're one of the bad guys. You've been working to abandon the workers and the poor this whole time. Did you not know that? Did you not realize that? Did you not get that your party exists exclusively to suppress workers and to work with corporate power? Did you not understand that? Do you not get that the CERB was only passed because the wealthy were afraid that the infection would get them? And now that they're feeling safe behind their gated communities, they're abandoning the poor. Do you not understand that that's what you work for? That's what you do. That's your life's work. Do you not understand that that's the case? Time to grow up, bud. Time to grow up. You're one of the bad guys. Say hi to Christia, by the way. Thanks for funding Nazis in Ukraine. Good work. You did it. You fucking did it, loser. Jesus Christ. These fucking liberals. He was my MP. He does live streams every Thursday on Facebook. What a fucking joke. What a fucking loser. Yeah, crying is more honest. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but honest isn't one of them. That's funny, Bumble. I like that. Any comment on the largest income pilot in North America in Los Angeles, put out by the governor, where 3,000 chosen families get $1,000 per month? Yeah, we're going into election season, right? Like, that's what that is. Like, just pass a basic income. It's the only thing I take seriously anymore, by the way. Like, pilot projects, like this, what a fucking joke. Just do it. It's cheaper than what you're doing. It saves you money, right? It saves you money. We've done the pilot projects. We've seen the results. How many times do you need to do the experiment? How many times do you need to actually see it happen? How many times, right? Enough with it. Enough with it. It's so the only reason that they do this kind of stuff is to dangle it in front of people and see, I care. See, I care. I definitely care, right? They don't give a fuck. They don't care at all. 3,000 chosen families. What's the population of Los Angeles? Who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a fuck at all? Right? It's less than like 1% of the population. Who gives a fuck? Even a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. It's a total fucking joke. Stop with the pilots. In my view, it makes people look cynical, and it makes them look like total assholes, is what it does. To me, they don't look like they're altruistic, nice people who are actually trying to help. To me, it looks like controlled dissent. It looks like a way for them to garner votes. It looks as cynical as it possibly can, right? And we all know what's going to happen. They'll put out the project. They won't let it complete. They never do, right? So they'll kill the project as soon as they get what they want, which is to be elected again. So they'll kill the project. Or they might let the project complete, and then they'll be like, well, we really need to take a look at this data. And then they'll shove it in a drawer and forget about it. Like, there is no politics in America. There is no politics. It doesn't exist. It's just fucking vanity projects. That's all it is. It's just a series of vanity projects. I'm the mayor of Los Angeles. Aren't I the greatest? They don't give a fuck. They don't care, even a little. If they cared, they'd pass the basic income, right? Because it would be cheaper than what they're doing now. But they don't give a shit about that. The suffering is the point. They want you to suffer. That's the point. Ugh. Los Angeles Economic Assistant Pilot, or Big Leap, is a new program totaling nearly 40 million, wow, or 0.0000001% of the economy. Who gives a fuck? Set to begin later in October and benefit around 3,000. Yeah, it's just straight up. You know what, man? I almost guarantee it. Los Angeles mayoral election. Election season. Election season. It's election season. Wow, here's a popular idea that we can throw a crumb at and pretend like we actually give a fuck about. Right? It's election season. Like, these guys don't care. They genuinely do not care. Like, they don't care about the results. They don't care about what's going to happen. They don't care if it actually helps anybody. They don't care. They want their they want to win the next election. And if people being like, wow, he actually did a pilot project. Oh, 3,000, yeah, great. Vote for him. That's good. And then they'll take the results and throw it in a bin, right? Maybe tuck it in the back of a room somewhere. And then 20 years later, somebody will stumble upon it and be like, oh, hey, it's the results of that thing, right? Which is exactly what happened with the Dauphin experiment. It's exactly what happened. Like, and hey, Ruth, how you doing? Chicago, great, right? Another pilot project during election season. Yeah, I really buy into this. Oh yeah, they're real serious about this. Like, pass it. Pass the basic income. Say that we know we need a support system in place because the private sector is not doing it. Just period, is not doing it. And it's going to be cheaper to do than what we're doing now. Like, How do I know all of these politicians are just using it as a way to inflate their own profiles and to convince gullible rubes to vote for them? Because they're not actually walking around saying, hey, the basic income's cheaper. Hey, the basic income's cheaper. Like, the basic income's cheaper. It's cheaper, right? None of them are actually saying that. No one's actually saying that. Isn't that fun? Isn't that interesting? How no one's actually walking around saying probably the number one selling point for the basic income is, hey, this thing eliminates poverty and it's cheaper than what we're doing now. Like, it's cheaper, straight up. Which only leaves the most rapacious sociopaths who are just like, well, they didn't earn it. They didn't earn it. They didn't earn it. They should be in poverty and die. Those are the only people left. So conservatives, right? Like, the system works. We know it works, and it's cheaper, and nobody actually says that. I've never heard Jagmeet Singh say it. I've never heard Annamie Paul say it. I've never heard Justin Trudeau say it, because they don't care. And they know that if they start saying that out loud, people will suddenly go like, wait a minute, it's cheaper? Holy shit, this thing is cheaper? And then they'll actually demand that it happen, right? But as we're seeing from these liberals, they don't work for us. They don't work for us at all, even a tiny little bit. They don't give a fuck about us even a little. They only think about us insofar as they keep us suppressed. That's it. How do we keep the serfs and the plebs suppressed? That's all they care about. How do we keep the wage slaves doing all the work for us while we do nothing? That's all they care about, exclusively. And so, yeah, they're going to throw, oh, yeah, basic income pilot project, yeah, 3,000 people, yeah, ha, 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 yeah, of course, ha, ha. And gullible rubes will be like, oh, it's better than nothing, check. Like, it's grow-up time. Like, it's time for the population to grow up and realize that these politicians are frauds, that they only care about their own power. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else, right? They're not interested in helping people. That the CERB was always a panicked decision in order to save their own skin. And once they felt safe, they were happy to dismantle it, as they did. Like, we're being abandoned by these guys. What we are experiencing is full-scale abandonment while we like, oh good, they threw a crumb at us. They really care. Get fucked. It's time to grow up. It's time to look at the Karens and the Kens and spit on them, because they're gross. They're disgusting people. It's time to look at the conservatives that are throwing people out on the street and saying that they deserve it, and call them the fucking Nazis and fascists that they are, because they're fucking disgusting. And it's time to say to our elected officials, we are not going to vote for you unless you pass this thing. And I don't mean a pilot project like fucking Del Duca is offering. Like this joke idea that like, yeah, I actually do care. I'm certainly not going to take those results and shove them in a bin and forget about them like we did with fucking Dauphin. Like, get fucked. We should abandon the conservatives. We should abandon the liberals. And at this point, I'm happy to say, abandon the NDP. Abandon these guys. They've already abandoned you. They don't care about you at all. They don't care about you at all. Vote communist, surround the halls of power. Stop pretending like these guys give a shit. Stop pretending like they give a shit about you at all. Hey, if you've made it to this point, like, share, subscribe the video. My Patreon's down below. Support leftist voices, right? Support people like me who are going to get thrown out into the street because of this bullshit, right? Support, actually take some money and give it to somebody, right? Actually give a shit. I don't know. And hey, if my live stream is 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come in here. Cry with me. Do you have somebody to talk about while you're being abandoned? Right? Because you're being abandoned. Do you have anybody to talk to about it? Come talk to me. Right? Good luck. We're going to need it. Fuck all this shit, man. Man, I wasn't feeling so pissed off today. I was feeling good. I'm actually making like a chili. I'm making like a vegetarian chili back here. And I was really proud of myself that I actually like did it, you know? Because I've been feeling really depressed this last week. Spending a lot of time just laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, that kind of dumb shit. And like, I'm so fucking over this, man. Like, I'm over this shit. It's unbelievable to me that people are just like, oh yeah, this is fine, I guess. Yeah, just go to work, everything's totally fine. Like, it's fucking unbelievable to me. How about a law against stopping basic income pilots? Half the politicians would be pissed off they can't be cruel to the needy. No, they'll just overturn it. Like, they don't give a fuck. And the populace is so stupid. Like, they don't understand. Exactly, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Abandon them like they abandoned you, yeah. Absolutely. Like, I don't get this. Like, why are we simping for these guys? Like, that's what it is now. It's just simping, right? We're just literally like, oh yeah, hit me daddy. Like, it's like we've got a weird kink. Like, we love the boot on our face. I don't get it. 80% of conservatives I've met that aren't boomers. So, like, 80% of the what? Like, 10% of conservatives that aren't boomers? Anyway. Yeah, low-key openly admit they're borderline fascists. I don't know much. It'd affect them calling them out for being Nazis. Yeah. I mean, stop collaborating with them. Stop treating them as though it's possible to be friends. Hey, Misty, how you doing? Also, good to see you too, Base. I think that's what I'm going to call you, because your name is real weird. ASDF, Base, QS, like, Kusfalfbeef. Maybe I could get that way. You want the psychopath song? You know what, man? Let's do it. I need to learn the lyrics of this song, because the Psychopath Nation is the only song a stranger has bought on my Bandcamp. Which, incidentally, if you would like access to my music on Bandcamp, please feel free. It's in the description. Come on, where are you? I need to get better organized with this, dude. I think it is time to start ripping pages out and start creating like a more organized binder, I think. Because this thing's, as you can see, I'm like flip. That's get fucked. Did I really write Psychopath Nation like this late in the game? Wow, I did. I thought Psychopath Nation was an older one. Okay. CD? Yeah, right. Who uses CDs anymore, dude? Come on. If I'm gonna actually make anything, I'm going full vinyl. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a full vinyl. Because I want it to be like a real art piece. I want it to be something artistic. Alright, let's go. Burn yourself out for dollar bills. Kill your children for a few cheap thrills. You got a problem? Well, that's too bad. You're too tired to see you've been had. Workers starve while we drop bombs. No such thing as right or wrong. We'll call you lazy while you work to death. You gotta earn yourself a moment of rest. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. No, I won't work for a psychopath nation. Burn those corpses so you can speed. Buy that garbage you don't need. Yeah, play the victim while you lose your grip. Why won't they work in the apocalypse and retreat into your stupid lies? Act confused while your children cry. You promise change but act the same. Gaslight, deflect, and take no blame. Yeah, I won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, I won't work for a psychopath nation. We collapse into the devil's lap as we watch the world burn to ash. You'll whine like bitch bitches on your way to the grave. Why won't those serfs just behave? You fucking vampires, demons, and ghouls. We're done with being treated like fools. The curse is lifted, we're free from your spell. Keep on crying while you burn in hell, 'cause we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, fuck this place, man. Like, fuck this place. Fuck these people. Fuck all these guys. Like, and this fucking... You know what pisses me off? This Nathaniel Erskine guy walking around being like, I'm confused. Why aren't we going back to work? I don't get what's going on. It's very frustrating what's happening. You know, it's like literally like, are we the bad guys? Are we the bad guys? Yeah. Yep. Sorry to say, bud. Like, literally, I'm like, you're like operating the controls on the Death Star, right? You hit the button, blow up Alderaan, and then you're like, I don't know, are we the bad guys? What do you think? Like, get fucked. Get fucked, you fucking loser. Like, and yeah, cathartic is the word. Like, it's just like, why do people keep doing it? Like, why do people keep voting for it? Like, that's the thing that blows me away more than anything. Like, the system is in free fall collapse. Your children cannot buy houses. 60 to 70% of our earnings go to rent, right? Like, we are being completely fucked over. There's no other way to articulate it. All of the evidence shows you that the conservatives and the liberals knowingly and wittingly went forward with these policies in order to create desperation in the populace. And you're still voting for it. There's something wrong with us. Like, there's just something wrong with us. There's something mentally and spiritually wrong with us. Like, which makes sense, right? Like, what's our culture built on? Our culture is built on slavery and genocide. Yeah, there's something fucking wrong with us. There's something deeply, deeply, deeply wrong with us. And fucking idiots like this Nathaniel guy sitting around being like, oh, just tell you how clueless we fucking are. How fucking detached from reality we've become. How separated from giving a shit at all about what is real or factual. Like, we don't give a fuck at all. Like, we don't give a fuck at all. Tax cut for the rich. That'll solve it. Do a tax cut for businesses. That'll solve it this time. Yeah, if we do a tax cut for the businesses, then people they'll be able to trickle that money back into the economy if we tax cut. Yeah. You know what happens? Like, don't you think that the taxes that are being paid actually do trickle back into the economy? Why? Because governments spend money, right? So you tax that money away from these businesses instead of letting them ship it offshore the way that they do, right? And when you tax that money away, what do you do? Oh, you use it on stuff. Oh, you use it on stuff. Oh, like this fucking trickle-down economy narrative that they're still moving forward with. It's very obvious that they're still moving forward with this. Is evil. Like, it's fucking evil what they're doing. Like, and I don't know what to say anymore to convince people of what is true and factual and real in the world any longer. Like, we're obviously just extremely stupid and gullible, or callous and miserable, right? We're just like a callous, miserable people. And meanwhile, while we are abandoning our populace to poverty and desperation, countries around the world are doing exactly the opposite and having actual positive results for doing so. Like, for God's sakes, like, China just did a breakthrough in quantum computing. Like, if you don't know about this, China's breakthrough in quantum computing makes them the front runners for quantum computing technology. And if they become the front runners in quantum computing technology, it basically means the United States is irrelevant. Like, really, in very serious ways. It essentially means that the United States is completely irrelevant. That they won't be able to attack the Chinese militarily. They certainly won't be able to attack them economically. And they'll have depleted all of their political prestige on the world stage. And no one's going to want to work with them. The United States has a population of 300 million. China has a population of 1.6 billion. No one's going to give a fuck about this backwater, like, death island, which is what it's turning into, right? That the United States and Canada are just going to turn into, like, these, like, you might as well have fucking, like, skull head, like, throne rooms where you're, like, shooting rockets. That the Chinese will just take over because they've got what? Quantum computing, right? Like, literally the breakthrough that they just did will allow them to create computers that are 100 times faster than the computers that exist right now. Like, you're going to shoot a rocket at them, they're going to take it over. They're going to hack it. And they're going to hack it real fast. Like, you're going to send a jet fighter at them, they're going to hack it. They're going to take it over. Right? Like, and you're not going to be able to do fucking anything about it. Like, how much longer until the conversation's over? And, like, once that happens, once it gets to the point where China is just not going to allow you to fuck with it anymore, right? And its influence has spread throughout the entire continent. And, like, in 20 years, it's going to get ridiculous. It's going to get ridiculously obvious, right? Like, are you kidding me? In 20 years, by the time China has the quantum computing up and running, like, they've got the Belt and Road Initiative already into Europe, right? They're going to work with Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia is building a city right here. So they're going to build the rail here. The rail's going to go over here, and then it's going to, well, it's going to intersect with the Suez Canal, and then it's going to get into Cairo, and then it's going to get into the rest of Africa, right? So all of this is going to be connected, where the vast majority of the populace lives, right? There's going to be enormous economic booms throughout Africa. There's going to be enormous infrastructure and economic booms throughout the Middle East. This whole fucking place is going to lose its goddamn mind because China is actually trading and working with people instead of bombing them and plunging them into poverty. And people are going to look at the United States and be like, ew. That's how the United States is going to be treated. Like, the United States is going to show up places. And you know what they're going to fucking, like, they're going to build a secondary UN. Like, these are the moments that are coming, right? Like, and this is speculation. This is total speculation. But, like, China is going to, like, work with Europe and all these places, and they're going to build a secondary UN and exclude the United States from it. Because the United States is a rogue terrorist nation. That's what it is. And it's going to be plunged into 100 years of desperation and poverty. Like, they're going to have 100 years of humiliation. It's going to be really bad. Really bad. And, like, literally the only solution that I'm hearing anybody come up with is we should balkanize this place. We should use state power in order to fight back against the federal government and yada, yada, yada. Stable economy and social prosperity or neoliberal death cult. Which country should I trade or ally with? Yeah, right? Like, the only thing that's keeping Europe connected at all to the United States is whiteness. Like, that's it. It's just straight up whiteness. It's just this white supremacy kind of thing. Yeah, it'd be nice if we could have an Earth alliance, but, like, the United States is a terrorist state, right? It's just gone completely off the rails. China has already helped Africa with infrastructure and no interest loans, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That what China is doing is straight up just equitably trading with its partners, right? In what they call win-win diplomacy. Like, they're not interested in exploiting or destroying the place or forcing people into slavery or anything. They're interested in going into the region and giving opportunities to countries that don't necessarily have them. And guys, what's going to happen in Afghanistan is absolutely going to confirm everything that I've been saying. what's going to happen in Afghanistan? Like, I'm going to be here in 5 years' time being like, I told you guys. Like, I told you so. Right? Like, Afghanistan is going to experience an economic boom that is going to be unlike anything else we've ever seen. These guys are so fucking hungry for it. They're so fucking ready. Like, the whole country is just like, please, can we catch a break? Please, can we catch a break? And China is being like, hey, here's your break. Right? They're going to connect them in to the Belt and Road Initiative, and Afghanistan is going to fucking explode. It's going to fucking explode. Like, it's going to become a powerhouse in the region. Like, really. Like, right now, it's like just this, like, mountainous shithole, basically. Like, who gives a fuck about Afghanistan? But, like, they have trillions of dollars of resources in their mountains. They've got trillions of dollars, right? And if they can just get connected to the Belt and Road Initiative, which is easy, because the Belt and Road Initiative goes here to the Kashgar Prefecture. So literally, clunk, right through here, clunk, right? China's already building it, right? They're already in agreements. They're already trading with one another. They're already getting stuff in there. Like, in 5 years' time, Afghanistan is going to be exploding. Like, it's going to be fucking ridiculous. So, and just wait for the propaganda, the CIA propaganda, right? We got to get into Afghanistan to protect those little children that we used to shoot in the streets, right? Yeah, nothing will change fundamentally. Joe Biden, so far he's kept his promise. Yeah. And yet people pretend as though Democrats and Republicans are different somehow. Like, I've got a thing here. Here, hold on. Let me go through some of this shit and get these cut off. Get this cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to keep that because that's actually an important document. Source documents. Hang on to source documents. Source documents are important. Yeah, the average American worker takes less vacation time than a medieval peasant. Nothing will fundamentally change, Joe Biden. This fucking moron. Okay, why are we going back to work? Why do you fucking think, you dumbass? Yeah, Americans, if you don't vote, you can't complain. French people, fix the economy or fucking die, bitch. USA people, haha, French cowards surrender for sales, rifle dropped once, never fired, cheese-eating surrender cowards. Also USA people, whoa, direct action is way too spicy. Find me a capitalist boot to lick. I'm way more comfortable with that. Fucking... And, like, I think the number one reason why I'm so pissed off about what's happening is because I don't want to live in a loser society, right? I don't want to live in a society full of losers, right? And that's exactly what we're setting ourselves up for, right? Like, forget about the fact that I'm probably going to experience homelessness. Forget about the fact that, like, underemployment and unemployment is real, right? Forget about all of that shit. Like, I've known that my whole life. I've been aware of that for my whole fucking life. When I was a teenager, I was telling my teachers, I'm never going to own a house, right? And they always had this, like, scoffing, like, ho, oh, John, and, like, here we are. Right? And, like, maybe they would say, like, oh, of course, John, you're not going to own a house because you didn't get the right job. And now I'm looking at my buddies who all got the right job and they can't fucking own houses either. Right? So I've known this my whole fucking life. I've known. Right? So, I've made peace with that. Right? What I'm pissed off about is that we live in a loser society. We are a society of total fucking losers. Without question. Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, NDP, doesn't matter. We're all fucking losers. Massive, enormous, high-level, high-scale losers. We couldn't be bigger losers, right? And the biggest losers of all are the ones that are walking around saying, just get a job. Just get a job. Just sell yourself to the capitalist death cult. That'll solve the problem, right? Like, we're a loser society full of enormous fucking losers, and we are going to plunge this place into a complete and total disaster, and it doesn't need to be this way at all. Everything that we're doing is self-inflicted. Everything is self-inflicted. And the idea that we're just keep working at it, just get a good job, just do, like, that's going to matter. Like, any of that's going to matter at all. And forget about what climate change is going to do, right? Like, when climate change starts burning the place down, starts fucking the place up, like, it's unbelievable what's coming for us. Like, it's unbelievable what's coming for us, and we're all just like, better vote Liberal. Yeah, if you don't vote Liberal, then the Conservative might get in. You know, if you don't vote Liberal, then the Conservative might get in, and that'll matter for some reason. Because they're different. Yeah, they're different. The Liberals, they flew a little pride flag that time. Did you see? And Trudeau, he went and when they had the protest for climate, he was there at the protest. So they're different. Yeah, they are different. Yeah. Like, that's who we are as a people. If I was to create a character to represent average Canada, that's the guy right there. Yeah, welcome to Canada. Eh? Yeah, it's good to be here. We got a great democracy here. We got so many parties. They keep doing all the same things, but we're sure that they're different. The next person that tells me there's a labor shortage, I'm going to scream. Yeah, it's been an effective propaganda campaign. The labor shortage propaganda campaign. It's been very effective. And it's taken a while for labor to realize what's been going on. But to their credit, labor seems to be realizing what is happening and putting together that, like, it's not a labor shortage, they're just not hiring. It's a hiring freeze is what it is, right? It's not a labor shortage. It's a hiring freeze. They're not hiring. They're not interested. Like, we are in the process of extraction at this point. Extraction of wealth, but also extraction of themselves. They are winding these businesses down to abandon us. You understand? Why hire people? You're trying to wind things down. You're trying to abandon people. That's the goal, right? And why are you trying to abandon people? Because they no longer have money. Why even bother having an establishment here anymore? This place will no longer be profitable because no one has any money. Why do nobody have any money? Because there's no jobs, right? And also there's no government services any longer, right? So we're seeing a full-scale extraction and abandonment at this point, right? These businesses will begin to shut down. They will begin to say things like, oh, it's just no longer profitable to be here any longer. So they will begin to shut down. It will be harder to get access to basic goods, right? Homelessness will spike. This is their goal. This is what they're doing on purpose. Like, but you know what? Maybe next time I'll vote NDP. That'll do it. I'll vote NDP next time, and I'll make a difference. That'll make a difference. Yeah. Democracy is when billionaires own everything, and they make more, and the more they own, the more they own, the more democracy there is. Yeah, exactly. The more they own, the more democracy there is. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you can't punish success, right? You can't punish success, right? Like, all of their arguments sound like the argument that a psychopath would use. He's like standing in trial being like, oh, you can't send me to prison. You'd punish success, right? It was hard work to do all of that, to hunt all those people down and to murder them mercilessly, right? I was very successful at it. You can't punish hard work like that, right? Imagine the judge being like, oh, that's a good point. You know, he's very successful. We can't punish success. Like, these people are fucking psychopaths. I know a friend who used to be a skilled tradesman and could not find a decent paying job to pay his bills. Yeah, he got his college degree 30 years ago. Still could not own a home. Yeah. Like, full-scale strikes. Abandonment. They're abandoning us. Like, abandon them back. Like, and if you can't afford that, right, if you've got to work for them, it's sabotage. Like, full scale. Like, these are your enemies. They're not your friends. People think a big famous brand live here with this country like them. Rude awakening when they open an office on a Caribbean island. Later losers. Exactly. Like, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, guys like Galen Weston and all this kind of stuff, like, there is genuinely going to come a point where they're just going to be like, why are we even doing this? Like, I already have hundreds of billions of dollars. Why are we even bothering? Just close them. I don't care. I have hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't give a shit. Bye. Like, that's what's going to happen. How do we know? Because they keep saying they're going to do it. And so they will. And our politicians are just going to be like, oh, okay, bye. Because our politicians are bought. Like, there is no credibility in the system. There's no credibility in the system whatsoever. This is a failed system from the inception. Like, the only reason this system has perpetrated itself or existed, and it hasn't existed for that long, right? Like, we've only been here for what, like 200 years, right? Like, capitalism exists through violence exclusively. It can't exist in any other state. And should the populace say, I refuse to exist in a violent society such as this, then the society will collapse because it requires violence. It can't exist any other way. Capitalism exists through violence and slavery and genocide. That's how it exists. If you stop committing acts of genocide and violence, then capitalism can't succeed. It can't work. I'm building a one-person money-making process in my house as a second business. I recommend growing food, which will keep your products in demand during a real shortage. Consider microgreens. Yeah, I'm actually considering that. My ex is actually like really into plants and all this kind of stuff, and I think this here, because of the window and the way the window works, I'm going to turn this into a big, an herb garden, right? So I always have access to like basil and lemongrass and like all the herbs that you'd need. And I'd like to overproduce and then get them out and dry them and bag them. And hopefully, you know, as things go into as those items become harder to get, hopefully be able to distribute some of it into the building that I'm in at least, right? So what I'd really love is to be able to get a hive up and running. That's what I'd really love, man. I don't know how to though. Like I mean, I know how to do all the hive and I know how to do all of that. It's just the I don't have any place to put a hive, right? So there's the church in the graveyard there. They've got some hives. Maybe I should go talk to them. See if they need any assistance or anything. Of course, I'm pretty good at growing mushrooms, so, you know. Mushrooms grinning or mushrooms? It's okay. This is a safe space. Remember we watched a video about wet setting season CGL equipment? Yeah. RCMP arrested Chief Daschle who was defending the territory. Of course they did, right? It's an invasion. Of course they did. Here, let's see if I can find that article, dude. Like, the RCMP are going into territory that's not theirs. Arrest Chief Daschle. Like, we don't give a fuck about their sovereignty. We don't give a fuck about them at all.
It's an honor to be here on behalf of the Gihsan people, supporting our brothers and sisters of the Laksamasu, of the Wet'suwet'en. And I stand here as a diplomatic prisoner of the Gihsan nation, of the Gitlu'imhetwit people. And I fully stand behind the Laksamasu clan government and all those who seek to uphold the traditional laws of the land. So much love to all the people of the world. And thank you again for your support. So everyone out there, I trust you to back up the people who are protecting the land, who are doing everything in their power to stand up to injustice. Because we are doing what we know is right, and we are following our truths. So as a member of the Gitlu'imhetwit, I ask that the Gihsan people stand up to uphold our laws for the sake of peace, for the sake of the land.
Mr. Gagnon, any words?
Just my love to everybody. Love to all the land defenders and love to all the officers and love to TVTA and Chief Justice Hannah
We're
Moon.
being very casual about all this.
Just make sure that he knows there that.
Well, they had to have known.
He's going to know really quick, but thank you.
Like, they had to have known.
Yeah. Perfect, thank you very much. Just go quickly. You're clear.
Well, they have to know. Like, they have to know that what they're doing is going to have that result. Or like accustomed to it, yeah. There's that too. Yeah, that did have like an odd sort of casualness about it, didn't it? Like everything about that was like
For your support.
like this speech that he's given.
So
like
everyone
he's-
out there,
like,
I trust you
you know,
to back up.
it's got a real like scripted. It's got a real scripted way about it. But I guess I mean they knew what was coming. They understood how this was going to go. Like they're not fucking around. But like it is the case that all of this is completely illegitimate, right? This is unceded land that looks like a political commercial, yeah. Because